Have you eaten human before?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you on steroids? So this is gonna be a lot of fun.
I can appreciate the fact that they look better, but bodybuilding to me is just growing as much muscle as humanly possible. The negative outcome for me was that I had to compete again. I'd love to compete again because the last time I competed, I started from such a horrible place.
We're thrilled to have a true titan in the fitness world with us, Haroon Curtis, a man who's not just sculpted an extraordinary physique, but has carved out a legacy in the competitive arena of bodybuilding. Haroon is a Mr. Australia title holder, a renowned personal trainer, and a figure who has transcended the sport, inspiring thousands with his dedication, mindset, and approach to life both inside and outside the gym. From the weights room to the business of fitness, Haroon's journey is nothing short of legendary. So let's get ready to uncover the stories, the struggles, and the successes of a man who embodies the spirit of what it means to be the 1% legend. So Haroon, why bodybuilding?
I only got into bodybuilding through injury, actually. So I was competing in track and field. I was competing at football, different times of the year. And through my younger years, a lot of soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, groin, what else? Hamstrings and groin pretty much ended my career on the football field and on the ath track. So I took up bodybuilding as the next best option as a physical outlet.
Did you ever think that bodybuilding would end up being your full-time job?
Not at the time, but the longer I lifted weights and the further I progressed, the more I saw that as a possible outcome going forward.
And when you think about bodybuilders today and how the sport has transcended, when I think about bodybuilders, I think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think about Rocky Balboa, I think about the old school titans in the sport. And where the sport has transcended now, it seems like it's gone to excess is better in terms of muscle. But now also you're starting to see the reprieve of that. So when I think of Chris Bumstead in the field, where they've got a new title for the Arnold Classic as a title, it seems like it's pulling back. Where do you like in terms of the actual physicality of it? Where do you actually range?
I love extreme.
Yeah.
So the absolute biggest is the best. But then I appreciate the classic division as well, which is the division Chris Bumstead competes in.
Yeah.
I can appreciate the fact that they look better, but bodybuilding to me is just growing as much muscle as humanly possible. That's cool for me.
Why?
Because it is, I guess I know what's involved for them to look like that. So the people that are the biggest, strongest, most muscular people in the world have pushed the envelope in every aspect of their life to look that way. Whereas the guys that compete in the classic division, they're training and supplementing and eating to look a certain way, but they could go further if they wanted to. So the guys that are winning the open class, they've taken their physique further than those in the classic, and that's probably what I appreciate.
So chronicle the story of like when you went and decided that you're going to compete for the title of Mr. Australia.
Okay. I'd competed in 2012. Then I had 2013, sorry. So I'd competed in 2013. I had won a state title. I had come second at nationals, and I decided at the start of that season to do the Natural Olympia over in Las Vegas? No, San Diego. And when I went to San Diego to compete, I ended up getting sick the night before the show. I checked in the morning at the comp, went back to the apartment to have a nap, and I never got up to go to the show. So I slept through the whole show. I thought I was going to get there in time, but when I got there was no one on stage. and they told me that the show was already over and that the night show, which is like there's two halves of the show, a day show and a night show. The night show wasn't on for, I don't know, 4 hours or something like that. So I came back for the night show and just asked the officials if I could get up on stage and pretend I was competing, even though I wasn't really allowed to. And they were nice enough to allow me to compete because I traveled halfway around the world to do so. So I wasn't really in the show, but I got to jump up on stage and compete. Then I had some time off after that show. I didn't compete for a while and I stayed quite lean, which I'd never made an effort to stay lean after a show for an extended period before. And every year I thought I'd compete again. And because I was staying so lean, I didn't feel like I'd progressed. So every year I was planning to compete, but never ended up happening. I then ended up, when did we have a kid? We had a kid 3 years after that. So this staying lean and thinking I'd compete and not actually competing continued on for about 3 years. Then we had a kid and I went terribly backwards after that point.
Why'd you go backwards?
Just change of lifestyle. So
What changed?
Everything.
Yeah.
So
I get it, by the way. Yeah.
I thought on paper nothing changed.
Yeah.
I was still training, I was still eating, I was still sleeping.
Yeah.
But everything was so different. My training was crap. My diet was shit. My sleep didn't exist. Or it existed, but to a lot lesser extent. So I was still doing all the same things, just I was doing them horribly instead of optimally.
See, this is what kind of excites me about like when I think about outliers in the field, because a lot of people deal with the same parameters. People have kids, right? People have families, but you still chose to do the goal of something like Mr. Australia. So that's kind of what I'm curious about. I want to press on that a little bit. Like that moment when you've got a family, and I imagine priorities shift for most people. I don't know, but the antithesis of being a bodybuilder is like this idea that it is a selfish sport. It's a sport of one. Like you still went and wanted to do the goal. What did you want to fulfill when you decided to do that? Like upon having a kid, is there something that you wanted to prove for yourself?
It's taking me a while to answer this question, but so every time I'd competed in the past, I'd competed to be better than I'd ever been before. So to be bigger and stronger in the off season so that I could then diet down, get leaner than I'd ever got before and present a better physique than I had ever presented in previous comps. So after these years of staying lean and then first few years of being a father, I was in probably the worst shape that I'd ever been in, physically and mentally. And I'd made a bet with you and another client at the gym. And the negative outcome for me was that I had to compete again. So
what was the bet you made with me? I can't even remember.
It must have been...
It was so insignificant to me at the time.
Well, neither of us can remember what the actual bet was.
It was a joke, but you end up getting a title at the end. So I'm curious what the bet was.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I think with you and Harsha, the bet was weight loss related.
Yeah.
So we both had to lose a certain amount of weight before a certain point in time, and the loser of the bet had a consequence.
Yep.
Mine was to compete again. And wait, no. With our bet, I had to do a Street Fighter tournament.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Something so insignificant.
So you had to compete.
Yeah.
You had to do a men's physique comp, and I had to do a Street Fighter comp.
That's right.
I believe. The bet with Harsha, we both had to compete. So he had to do men's physique, and then I had to do a bodybuilding comp. So, yeah, it was a combination of those two bets that led to me starting to accept that I might be able to get up on stage again.
So most people, when they make a bet like that, it's a joke.
Yep.
Like, so again, the idea was you compete in a Street Fighter contest because I like playing competitive Street Fighter.
Yep.
And I'm really bad at Street Fighter, by the way. But I thought the idea is if you could play Street Fighter, it'd be hilarious to me. This idea of like when I think about the greats, Michael Jordan, who sometimes would invent stories in their head for them to compete. So there's that famous story where he got off the field and he said, to his teammates, this guy said something to me, and like it was something as simple as good game. And he's like, I'm going to destroy this person next time I play. And like later on when they chronicled the story on the Netflix series, The Last Dance, they interviewed the guy that crashed him into his face. He was like, I never even said that thing. I don't know what he was talking about. He just invented that to get me like, but he needed something to have fuel to make him compete, right? Whereas the fuel here, again, was a joke bet, like playing a Street Fighter contest for you to compete. So I want to like sort of dive into that. Why was that the catalyst for you to actually step up and put yourself through excruciating pain?
Yep. Because a comp prep it's pain.
Yeah, it's machinist. Like
I'm competitive.
Yeah.
So I like competing at things. So I'm happy to put bets on because whatever the bet, it's a competition between myself and you or whoever we've put the bet on with. So I get enjoyment out of competing. But to decide to compete when I was in the absolute worst shape I've ever been in was probably the most daunting thing I could have done. So when we were thinking of a negative outcome for me if I lose the bet, that was it. Like that was the worst thing I could possibly choose to do at that point in time. If I was going to lose this bet and I had to compete again, I'm starting from the lowest rung that I've ever been on. So why would I accept that? I don't know. I wanted the other person on the end of the bet to have to go through pain and discomfort, and they threw the same, I guess, what do you call it? They threw the same consequence back at me. You know, if they're going to have to compete, well, then I'm going to have to compete as well. And it just happened to be a very bad time for me to make that decision.
What was your body like before competing?
Before I ever competed or before at that time?
The competition time.
Before at that time.
Describe your mindset and body at the time.
Mindset was hopeless. I was in a hole and I wasn't terribly out of shape compared to the average person, but compared to how I would usually eat and train and sleep and look, I was in bad shape. So let's say I was 25% body fat, but usually if I was that fat, I'd be really big and strong at the same time, whereas I was weak and smaller than usual. So I had a lot more fat and a lot less muscle than I was used to carrying because I hadn't got to 25% body fat because I was eating good food and training hard. I got to 25% body fat because I was doing everything wrong. So it was a fairly hopeless situation, I felt.
How'd you turn it around?
Very small steps. So the first thing I had to do was not skip meals anymore because for me, that's a catalyst for everything else falling apart. So I woke up one day and said, no more skipping meals. I'm just going to eat my meals, whether I want to or not, whether I want to prep them or not. I'm just going to stick to my meal plan.
What was the meals?
I can't remember exactly, but it's probably fairly similar to the way I'm eating now still. Yeah. So breakfast would have been my Iron Curtis Breakfast of Champions mix, which is generally yogurt, cottage cheese, protein, rice, banana, frozen berries, cinnamon, maybe some honey, some creatine. Meal 2 would generally be salmon and salad, nuts and seeds. Meal 3 was probably my pre-workout meal. And that would have been, I assume, like a kangaroo bolognese sauce with always beetroot and sometimes rice or sweet potato. Probably rice back then. I was probably eating rice back then. Post-workout, I would say it was probably chicken at the time with either white potato, sweet potato, or rice again, and veggies. And then my dinner meal was probably steak and veg and eggs.
So if I eat like you and train like you, can I be Mr. Australia?
Maybe.
Why or why not? Because a lot of people are going to be listening and be like, oh, if I just eat like this motherfucker, I can look like this guy. But
you won't necessarily look like me, but you could be good-looking version of yourself.
Yeah.
Whether or not you have the potential to be Mr. Australia title holder is not just dependent upon your diet, exercise, and training. Genetics play a part. So if you just had a horrible bone structure and you were shaped like a pear, you're probably going to struggle to win bodybuilding titles, even if you have
so you're saying
considerably more muscle than
there's a genetic component here.
100%.
So are you lucky genetically?
I always thought I wasn't. I always thought I was genetically inferior, but my results probably say otherwise.
Can you be genetically unlucky? Like in terms of, I want to be Mr. Olympia, which I don't, by the way.
Yep.
But if I wanted to be, like, and I worked as hard as I could, there's no chance for me, right? Because there's a genetic disposition.
No, there's a chance.
Yeah.
Because you've never taken steroids, we don't know how you respond. Some people respond incredibly well.
So talk to me about steroids, Aaron.
Yeah.
Are you on steroids?
Not at the moment, no.
I want to chronicle this. A lot of people that I speak to about you, I'm like, yeah, I know Aaron. And they're like, oh yeah, like he's the biggest denier of steroids on the planet. I'm like, no, that guy's not on steroids. And if he is, he would have fooled me.
I am a denier of steroids.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Like, what's your opinion on steroids in general? Why have you never gone on steroids?
My opinion on steroids is that they're probably overly utilized by the general population. They're generally not healthy unless you're taking them for medical reasons, which are trying to balance an imbalance that you have. Why I've never been on them, I grew up around some people with substance abuse issues, recreational and, when I was a bit older, performance enhancing. And they were really good, bad examples of what substance abuse can do to you. So having a lifelong drug habit was never overly appealing to me.
So that was the catalyst to never use steroids?
Because I didn't just see sunshine and rainbows with performance enhancing drug use. I saw a lot of negative consequences as well, which I think a lot of people don't bother to think about.
There are levels to the bodybuilding game. So from what I understand, you've competed in a contest that is tested or non-tested?
I've competed in both tested comps and non-tested comps.
Have you won in both?
I've won in both.
So here's the thing, right? Is there a level where someone taps you on the shoulder? It's like, listen, you're doing well, Curtis. #1 bodybuilder, natural in Australia. We just line you up on a nice steroid path. We can fly you to America. We can get you to compete there. You got that Aussie sort of brand. You look like a surfer. Let's chuck you there and get you to the next level. Has that conversation ever happened to you?
To an extent, yes.
And do you consider it when that happens? Or are you so morally aligned with your childhood that you say, no, this is as far as I go on sport?
It was nothing to do with morals. It was probably my lack of self-belief that no matter how many steroids I took, I could never be elite. So why would I waste time, money, effort, and cut 20 years off my life attempting to achieve something that in my mind at the time was impossible?
When I think about, like, you would see as a personal trainer all shapes and sizes of people. What's like the #1 thing that people come to you and say they want to achieve? Like, I'm assuming that most people want to get fit. They want to not get fat. They want a bit of muscle. Well, I'm speaking to the guy trope. Like, what are the #1 identifiers of the things that you kind of see and as a PT, and what are the fixes here?
So if I had to generalize, everyone wants to lose body fat and gain some muscle so that they look more impressive physically. If I had to generalize from everyone, that would be a common goal. In the process, they're going to get fitter and healthier.
How do you get fit and healthy?
Fit for what?
You define it.
Okay. General fitness.
Yeah.
So you'd want to be strong,
Sure.
and you'd want to be fit cardiovascular wise, and to be healthy, you would want to be at a healthy body weight.
I want you to give tailored advice to like Joe Blow.
Yep.
Joe Blow, who's not. So I see you every single day. You're an elite competitor. Like tailored towards Joe Blow, whose standard diet is the Australian diet or the American diet that we follow. A bit of pasta, a bit of fun, a bit of ice cream, like all the good stuff, Curtis.
Yep.
Like, why can't I have that?
You can.
So I'm Joe Blow.
Yep.
So tell me.
Well, to Joe Blow, if I start talking about macros, he's not going to know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to have to give general recommendations in regards to his food choices. I would say eat more lean meats and vegetables and less processed foods. So that would be my first, I guess, point of call.
Is the solution always that simple?
Yes.
And do you think that sometimes we over-engineer like a sexy solution to something that we all know to be true?
Of course. Because no one wants to know that eating unprocessed food and exercising every day and doing that for the next 10 years is what they need to do to look the way they want to look.
If you could wave a magic wand, Joe Blow comes to you, puts his hands in his face, and he starts crying. It's like, Curtis, man, I've tried everything, and I'm all out of ideas. What do you tell him? What's the Curtis process in terms of how to turn Joe Blow into a pair, into what he defines to be fit, which is losing weight and a bit of muscle?
Yep.
What's the process?
I get them we write down their diet together, just on paper.
So let's pretend Joe Blow's running his diet. What's he eating?
Depends whether he's being honest or not.
Let's pretend he's being honest.
Okay.
There's a truth serum to his neck.
Yep.
And he's being honest for the first time.
Cool. So he eats 50% well. So 50% of his meals, you go, that's you're making good choices, and 50% are not so good choices. So it sounds reasonable. Like half the time I'm doing the right thing. Yet if he looked at himself, he's only 10% to where he wants to get to. So how can I be doing half the things right and still only be 10% of the way there? And I guess that's because the 1% of people that he's looking at do 100% of everything right. And they've done it 100% right for an incredibly long time. So he's been doing 50% right for the last 6 months. That doesn't count for much. So he sees his effort as very good, whereas I see the effort he's put in as very average.
Joe Blow tells you how to do your job. It's like, hey man, I saw something called keto. Have you heard of it? And then he gives you a speech about how keto is so great. And I've seen this a lot as well, where there is so many diets out there. There's keto, there's vegetarian, vegan, there's just eat vegetables, just eat whatever. I mean, you've seen them all.
Yep.
Which one's correct?
The one that you are most comfortable to stick to, and the one that's going to yield the best results for you.
Assuming that...
Or are we talking absolute optimization of body composition here?
Let's talk about absolute composition.
Well, I'd say an omnivorous diet based mainly around whole foods.
And going back to the contest, when they announce that you're the winner, what's that like?
There was a lead up to it. So they announced everyone from 8th place through to 1st. So when 8th place got announced, I was happy because I didn't come last. And when 7th place got announced, I was happy because I didn't come second last. And I kind of, I was very surprised coming first because I had looked worse than I'd looked previous times I'd competed. I was in the absolute worst shape of my life when I started preparing for that show. Yet I had achieved the best result on paper that I'd ever achieved. So it didn't really make sense from that sort of aspect of it. But I was happy. And Actually, I was the most emotional I had ever been after a bodybuilding comp, after winning the Pro Mr. Australia, because I had really felt like I'd regressed so much that I would never be able to get anywhere near, I guess, my previous self. And I hadn't surpassed my previous self, but I had got somewhat close, and I'd gotten good enough to win an Australian title. So it was emotional because I had achieved something I didn't think was possible at that point in time.
You going to do it again?
I hope so.
Why do you hope?
I'm very broken at the moment, so I'm just waiting to get fixed before I'd worry about anything like that.
Broken?
Physically broken. Mentally, I'm all right.
Right.
Yeah.
What's physically broken about you?
After those comps, I realized I had rhabdomyolysis, which is basically just a breakdown of muscle tissue that then poisons the kidneys. That was just from doing too much exercise. I was just training ridiculous amounts.
I do remember seeing you.
Yep.
So I would see you and you were the most jacked person on the planet from what I could see. Like, I haven't seen anyone more jacked physically. I mean, you just won a title. You look like Goku. And so I was like, dude, this is insane. How you transcended your body. And 3 days later, your body size tripled. You looked like a cloud.
Yep.
Like, it looked like you're on the verge of dying.
Yeah.
At that
I
point,
think I was, actually. I didn't realize it.
at that point, do you feel like it's too much?
No, I was just confused as to what was going on. So everyone kept telling me to go to the doctor because there must be something wrong with my kidneys. But in my mind, there was nothing wrong with my kidneys because generally people have kidney issues from taking too many diuretics. I don't need to take diuretics because generally people take diuretics when they're on steroids and they're holding too much water. So I've never had to touch diuretics. So why would there be anything wrong with my kidneys? I never thought that I had rhabdomyolysis at the time. But looking back, I'd had it for weeks. I just chose to ignore it.
Have you eaten human before?
Yes,
Why?
for fun.
What does it taste like?
Liver. It was a placenta, so it was a human organ.
I always said this podcast's going to get cancelled before we even began.
My clip about eating the placenta is still up. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
What was it like eating the placenta and why did you eat the placenta?
I did it for the lols. And so that I could, when I was arguing with vegans in the future and they put the argument forward like, oh, you eat chicken, would you eat a human? I'd be like, of course I'd eat a fucking human. Like, it's an animal. So why wouldn't I eat a human? Like, what kind of argument is that?
When Channel 7, Channel 9, and Channel 10 News are doing breakout stories about bodybuilder in Melbourne eating placenta, what's going through your head?
It was great.
Yeah.
Probably the most fun part of it was the fact that my fiance didn't want it aired or didn't want me to put it online or anything like that. And now all these international news agencies are contacting me and running stories on it. So that was just fantastic.
It seems like you really like being a troll.
Yes.
You revel on it. And I always tell this to people. I'm like, his online persona is a troll.
Yep.
But then in person, he's very reasonable.
Yep.
So was you eating the placenta a part of like just pushing the boundary and being a troll?
To a point, yes. Because I wanted to be able to say I'd eaten human because I knew that would disturb people greatly. And I just really wanted to argue with vegans about, why do you choose to eat chicken yet you wouldn't eat your pet dog or you wouldn't eat a human? I was like, well, I have eaten human, so.
Would you eat your pet dog?
Not my pet dog. I'd eat your pet dog.
I don't have a pet dog. I've got a bird.
I'd eat someone else's pet dog.
Would you eat my bird?
Nah,
Yeah,
because
it's-
I've looked after it.
yeah,
so
exactly.
I have an emotional attachment to it.
So anything with emotional attachment.
Anything that I'm emotionally attached to, I'd probably not.
But
want
so
to
no
eat.
emotional attachment to the placenta though.
No. Oh, no, I did have an emotional attachment.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
Yeah.
That organ
It'd be a waste.
helped grow my child.
Yeah, like
So
why would you waste the placenta?
it
Fry it up, salt and pepper?
did a decent enough job of growing my child, so I thought it would help grow me as well.
Do you think that the salt and pepper and the seasoning on the placenta
Yep.
was optimal? Is that the best way?
Did I salt and pepper it?
Well, you tell me.
No, I think I ate it plain because I wanted to taste just the pure placenta.
Again, the goal is to get the podcast cancelled with 2 people watching this.
Yep,
So this is going to be a lot of fun.
I don't think I seasoned it. I think I ate it plain because I wanted to know what human placenta tasted like.
I want you to chronicle or just discuss kind of what social media has done in the bodybuilding world. Like, I know growing up when we used to sit in front of the TV, watch like Cheese TV or Toonami, we'd see Dragon Ball Z and Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo, and then we'd see these strong hero types, and that was our social media before the internet. We would just watch that, and then everyone would go to school and say, I want to look like this dude, and they'll charge in the playgrounds and do that kind of thing. Now it seems like it's shifted to something else online where the most likes is the most jacked person. And like, how do you think the landscape has changed and the expectations it has on people in general?
So in regards to competitive bodybuilding, social media has allowed athletes to make a living off stage rather than just on stage. So now to be well known and to make money from the sport, you don't have to win shows. You just have to have a following online. And some of the athletes that do very well in shows may not have a good following. And I've noticed there's a lot of sort of, you can tell they're envious of that there's these people finishing 15th in the show and they won, yet the guy that finished 15th is making millions more dollars than they are every year just because they've got a bigger following online. So there's a shift in what you need to make money from the sport, and it's not necessarily just a trophy. In regards to social media, I guess distributing images of what people want to look like, it's so easy to see that now. You don't have to buy a magazine. You know, you don't have to only pay for a live stream of the Mr. Olympia. It's just everywhere all the time on your news feeds. So we're constantly bombarded with very impressive looking physiques. And I guess that's having a negative impact on maybe people's body image, things like that.
Do you think maybe?
I think definitely.
Definitely maybe.
Yeah, definitely maybe.
Do you think, so here's the thing, right? We always hear about how social media affects females more so because of the unrealistic body expectations.
Yep.
Do you think that like the same thing happens to guys when they see jacked people?
100%. Like if the ideal female physique is a runway model, all they have to do is starve themselves. Easy.
Is it easy?
Sure. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Sure.
I've fasted before. Extended fasting. For me, it was the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I felt better fasting than I do eating normally. So if you'd told me to never eat a calorie for the rest of my life, I would have been quite happy with that. And of course, I would die eventually.
Sure. But what about the guy version of that?
Yep. So the guy version of that requires a lot of work. And the guy version of that probably requires anabolic steroids for the vast majority of people. So yeah, there's a lot more that has to go into that ideal male physique than the ideal female physique because it's going to take 10 years of eating, training and sleeping and steroid abuse to look that way.
When I think about people that I know and they go on the path of, say, for example, steroids, like for the most part, like it seems like it has a sustained effect where they get a massive body and it looks great. Also, it seems like in order to keep that image up, they've got to kind of like, well, keep on the gear. Like there's no way out of it. Like, what do you say to like young people who they're like, I want to look like this dude, and they put a photo out, some social media influencer
who's on steroids.
He's on gear. It's like, well, he's not on steroids, Curtis. What do you know? Do you know him?
So if their goal is to look like someone who's on performance enhancing drugs, then they have to understand what that comes with. So if they want to maintain that physique for the rest of their life, then again, they're going to have, substance abuse problems from here until the end. That's not 100% true. I guess there's a lot of people with good physiques that don't completely abuse drugs. But then if you're using drugs off script, I guess you would class that as drug abuse. And unless this person has, medically prescribed testosterone because they're naturally low in testosterone, well, then they're taking it illegally, and I guess you would class that.
Have you ever recommended anyone to take steroids, Curtis?
No. I've helped facilitate people exploring the use of steroids through people I know and things like that, but I've never recommended someone take steroids. No.
Why would you help? I'm kind of just genuinely curious.
Yep.
Facilitate people to go on the path of gear.
Because they've said...
Versus your own sort of moral compass. And you said it wasn't moral.
No, it's not moral.
Whatever. But this idea of like, you made a judgment call of saying, I'm not going to ever go on this path, but then you're happy to push them on the path of gear.
No pushing. They pushed. I just...
Facilitate.
Helped. Yep.
How do you help them?
Tell them to speak to that person or that person.
Have you ever said no?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me the no stories and why.
The no stories.
What does the person look like when they ask you for steroids? It's like, man, I just want to look like this dude.
Yeah.
Jacked fitness model.
I'm not going to describe exactly how they look because you'll know who I'm talking about. But it's generally someone that doesn't train that well, doesn't eat that well, doesn't sleep that well, is frustrated about why they don't look like a professional fitness model. So they think anabolic steroids are the cure to their problems. That's the general thing I see. And why I would recommend against it, because they're still not going to achieve what they want to achieve with all the drugs in the world. This person's still not going to train enough, still not going to eat enough, still not going to sleep enough. So in my opinion, they're just wasting time and money and risking their health.
What was it like meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger?
That was cool. Yeah, it was cool.
Like, what's the story there?
Okay, well, the only time I've ever met Arnold in person was at the Arnold Classic Australia. And at the time I was sponsored by Subs R Us, and they were the major sponsor of the Arnold Classic. So I'd been given front row seats with the owner of Subs R Us. But it was leg day, so I had to train legs prior, and I always end up going overtime when I'm training myself. So I was late to the show, and I was still dressed in my stringer and my strong lift wear shorts. I think I jogged to the convention centre to try and get there somewhat on time, and whoever it was showed me to my seat. I was right up the front, and when they sat me down, everyone around me just jumped up all of a sudden, like all these big dudes in suits. And someone said, I can't sit here. I couldn't understand what was going on. You know, I had my ticket. I was in the right seat. And then the person directly in front of me stood up and turned around, and it was Arnold, and everyone that was shitting themselves was his security. And they were wondering why some degenerate had just sat down behind Arnold when he probably should have been up the back.
So you're close to the legend himself.
I was close to the legend, and I was promptly moved a couple seats to the right.
You're a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger because he's bodybuilding or he's acting?
Both.
Or his governor skills?
I never followed his politics too closely.
But his story to arc life is pretty amazing.
Yeah, his story is pretty cool. So when I heard him speak, and he sort of talked through his story from being 10 years old to where he was now, it was really cool to hear, because as someone that never had a plan when they were younger, this guy had a plan from the age of I don't know what, and he lived it, which was super impressive.
I remember there was a expo and me and my friend, it was Max actually, there was a line in the ticket where it said you could have dinner with Arnold for $10,000.
Yep.
It was along those lines. Some crazy,
I know
crazy price.
Dinner, I think.
Yeah. It might have been less actually. Maybe that was too high. Maybe it was like five. It was something. It was in the thousands.
I think it was close to 10K.
It was 10K, and we couldn't afford the ticket at the time. We're like, oh, you know what? Let's just go see him speak, And so we drove down, went to the expo, and then like the idea was I saw people walking out, and people were like, that was such a scam. It's like you had dinner and then you met Arnold, but it was like mutual exclusive. So these guys had dinner, and then Arnold like literally just sort of waved his hand and then he kind of left. So they actually had dinner and then they met Arnold, but it was like the line. So they got what they wanted, but it was like a most expensive $10,000 dinner ever.
Yep. I heard pretty terrible stories, whether it was that instance or another one very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, where people paid thousands of dollars for dinner with Arnold.
Yeah.
They had dinner. Arnold walked in at some point, sort of said hello to everyone and had to leave.
Do you think that's just the game? You build yourself up such a cool brand. You just have dinner
I don't
for
know
10 grand.
I don't know who was making more money from that,
Yeah.
Arnold or the person that organized the dinner with Arnold.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure who to look negatively upon in that instance.
You witnessed the phenomenon of Ziz. You met him.
Yep, met him a few times.
Well, how he took off and the way he took off was a roller coaster. And when you met him, what was that like?
It was, I guess, his rise to popularity front ran a lot of the people that came afterwards. So I guess a lot of the fitness influencers that have followed him have followed a similar path.
Yeah. He really carved it out, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like,
He was like the influencer before influencers.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
the first person that I really saw just get famous off the bodybuilding forums but just being a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have the best body in the world. He had a great body, but he wasn't like the most successful bodybuilder. He wasn't the biggest, most muscular, strongest person, but he was just this.
But he was
a
jacked
character.
and he was aesthetic.
He was.
He looked
yes.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked great. He was entertaining. He looked good. Yeah, he was different.
Do you think like that persona that he had online and then the persona that he had offline kind of reminds you of you a little bit? Like you've got an online sort of trolley persona and then the offline again, like respectable and reasonable. And so what was he like in person when you met him? Because from the stories I've heard, he was more almost like introverted.
Yep.
Is that right?
There was a bit of both. So there was one time where we were supposed to catch up for dinner with him and some mates, and he couldn't be bothered coming out because he was at home playing Final Fantasy VII or something like that. So
It's such a good goal.
couldn't
Good
be bothered
game.
going out for dinner. I'll just stay home and play games.
Yeah.
But then when we were at festivals and stuff like that and nightclubs, he was a bit more extroverted. So yeah, typical sort of Muztec, dancing around with his top off kind of thing, which I guess fits more of the online persona.
Yeah, he was.
But I guess that's why you go to a festival, to have fun.
Yeah, he was a true legend. Like he grew in popularity so quickly and he influenced so many people to go to the gym at the time. And he just was hilarious as well. Like you'd see him like lifting up girls, like bicep curling them and like going to these studios and just eating ice creams and people just quote him, potatoes are going to potate and like just so much fun, that character. Like when you found out he passed on, what was that experience like?
Well, I thought it was a joke at first because I thought, well, this is a really good troll. Like, you know, he's telling everyone he's dead. And then at some point he's going to pop up out of somewhere and it's all going to be funny. So it took me a while to realize that it was for real. I assume that was through his brother said, because when I saw him posting stuff about it, I was like, I think this is actually for real. So whenever someone young passes away, it's a bit of a shock. And especially, I mean, I guess it's sad when anyone dies, but when you see someone with so much potential and he garnered so much attention and so many people looked up to him and followed him, it makes it even more sad.
Looking back on your journey, is there anything you do differently?
Yes.
What would you do differently?
I would maintain more of my lifestyle after having a child than I did at the time. So I really feel like I just pulled back on everything way too much because I had to be a dad. I would have loved to have done that a little bit differently.
You achieved a remarkable balance between top-level athlete and successful entrepreneur. For people who are listening and want to follow a similar path, what are the key habits and philosophies that people should embrace?
Just do the basic things well, unfortunately. That's probably the secret to almost everything. If you can do the basics better than everyone around you, no matter what niche that you're in, and you do that for longer than those around you, you'll probably be more successful than those around you. So just focus on the basics and do them very well.
Finally, to wrap up, what's next for you? Any upcoming projects or goals in the realm of bodybuilding or business that you're particularly excited about?
Just need to get my body right. So yeah, a few broken things at the moment. So just waiting for them to get fixed. And then just keep doing what I'm doing. Keep lifting weights and trying to get bigger and stronger. And I'd love to compete again because the last time I competed, I started from such a horrible place. I'd love to compete again from not such a horrible place and see what the outcome is at the end.
Well, thanks heaps for being on the podcast. 1% Legends. This is the very first one. Thanks for being part of this weird experiment that I'm trying out. I think I wanted to just achieve trying to get the most out of just speaking to people who are elite in their field. And I thought, what better guest than yourself to start this podcast off? So thanks again and really appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you very much for having me.